This is Mamahood After Trauma.
Hello, Mama, and welcome to this episode of the Mamahood After Trauma podcast. I am so excited that you have taken some time out of your busy mama schedule to tune in and listen. Today, we are joined by Anaiis. She was a speaker at the second quarterly Mamahood After Trauma Symposium, and I am so excited to have her with us today. Welcome.
Hi, Emily. It's nice to see you again, and that was a wonderful event. Good for you.
Oh, thank you. So let's get started, Anaiis, and just share a little bit about yourself and what brought you to do the work that you do.
Well, I've actually written a book about that, but I'll give you a really short strokes. I am a mom as well. I have 2 sons, and I started my adventure with Mamahood very early. I was 19 when I had my first child. Then I had a patch of difficulty where I was told I would not have any more children. Complication from a situation that I had no idea was going on until I almost died from it. And then that's when I began to get information from inside because I didn't want to leave my 3-year-old. I really didn't. I didn't want to leave him behind and abandon him. And so I was wondering if there was some other opportunity besides dying. And I asked, and I got answers. And so the information began to come from within, which I used and applied. I was fortunate that there was some medication that worked. It was really toxic, and I had to take it for a year, but hey, I'm still here. And then I just kept doing and working with the information that I got from within. And then it took a few years, but I eventually did get pregnant again, and I went back to my obstetricians who said it would never happen and asked them to please take as good care of me the second time around as they did the first. That's how I got started. Doing what I'm doing now as an energy healer, master healer level, and a life coach. And I've been through the meat grinder like a lot of people. And it's good to have, it's great to survive it, let's just say that. But it's also really helpful, and in my presentation I talked about the importance of communication and how you don't allow trauma to shut you down, how you really need to navigate that with some courage and some more consciousness.
Yeah, because as trauma survivors, we get stuck. Our voice gets stifled, and we have all kinds of beliefs that keep us safe in the moment, but in the long term don't serve us. And so what was your journey like overcoming that and reclaiming your voice?
Well, in that instance, that first sort of bad surprise, I was mostly thinking about my son. Because I was okay with whatever happened, and I had some extraordinary, altered state, no drugs, consciousness that showed me where I would be going, and I was fine, and I really didn't want to leave him. So my voice was not lost. In fact, my voice was found during that interlude, and we went on and we survived. But the second go-round, after my second child, as I described in my talk, the betrayal was unspeakable. It was truly, for me, it was unspeakable. And poetry and creativity and doing everything I can to both hunker down, nurture myself, still remain connected to my 2 children, living children. Well, I was evaluating whether or not I would be able to continue with the relationship that I was in, because literally all the trust was gone. But like most moms, you want to keep the stability going. You don't want to just... So that really was quite a struggle to keep my voice and to know when I felt safe enough to speak, and how I wanted to communicate to my children. And I really didn't do a great job of it. I really didn't. I'm much better at communicating with my children now. But the pain was so intense. That's when I talk about sing, silence is not golden. And then there's the issue of who can you trust to speak to. So that's one of the reasons I'm a life coach, because that people do trust me.
Yeah, I can resonate with that as well, because, not everybody is a safe place. Not everybody can be trusted with what you're struggling with and hold the space that you need them to, because everybody's got their own garbage can full of junk. So what was your journey like, coming out of that abusive relationship and learning how to communicate with your sons and with yourself?
Yeah, it was interesting because I went into a field to support the family while my now ex-husband went to medical school, and I went into a field of communication. I became a certified shorthand court reporter. But I wasn't speaking. I was listening. And what really helped me get through what I had to get through and reach the place where I said, whatever this is, it's not worth it.
Mm-hmm.
And listening was a very, very active part of that. And then being very careful about when I spoke to do it from a really grounded, centered place.
Mm-hmm.
And in that relationship, over time, as I did my inner work, I lost the charge, the kind of glue. That was this very kind of hot charge between the two of us. And I gradually dialed it down, dialed it down, dialed it down, without giving away any part of me. And then I was able to speak to my needs. And then I was able to say, this is done. I still didn't do as good a job as I could have, because I literally was so distressed by this relationship and by this person who was my partner, that when we were going through the divorce proceedings, and I had a lawyer who was like, you're in a state with 50-50. You can have 50-50 of his income for the rest of his life. And I was, Emily, ladies, whoever's listening, really listen to your lawyer and bite the bullet. Because at that moment, I didn't want to see this man's name on a check. That's how bad it was. And I was like, no. That was an incredible moment of self-sabotage. Again, I didn't know that lawyer that well. He wasn't a friend. I didn't know enough to know that I didn't know what I needed to do to protect myself. So trauma takes so many different forms when you're a parent. When you're a person, when you're a human being, but when you're a parent, ooh.
Yeah, it changes the ballgame, eh?
Absolutely.
So, what would you say to the mama who is listening, who maybe is in that toxic relationship, who's struggling with feeling heard, feeling seen, using her voice? What would you say to her?
Thing, silence is not golden.
Mm-hmm.
Keep yourself safe. Look for groups. Maybe you need to go to a community center. Maybe you need to go to a safe house. Maybe you need to look in your local community. There's always a group where you can go, and at least you can go and sit. Maybe you can find a babysitter, and you've got, grandma or whoever will watch the kids for a little bit, and you can go and sit and feel. Mm-hmm. Just feel what you need to feel in a space where nobody's going to be judging you. Mm-hmm. Nobody's going to demand that you feed the group with your information. You come in as you are, and you stay as you are. That helps to rebuild trust, because I think that's the critical factor. For me, I was left literally the only two people in my life I could trust at that point were my children, and I was the adult.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Find a place. Take your time. Sometimes our families are not willing to be our allies for a lot of reasons. Our family survivors are not going to be there for us.
Yeah.
Does that sound like a reasonable thing to suggest?
Yeah. I mean, let's dive in for a second to
Sure.
element of trust, because being a trauma survivor means that your trust has been broken once, twice, 100 times by those people that you really believe that you should be able to trust, whether
Correct.
it's a spouse or a parent or another family member, those people that you're really supposed to be able to trust. And it creates a minefield.
That's a great way to put it, Emily. And you never know with your next thought or your next word if you're continuing to put the energy outside of yourself. You never know what's going to blow up. So what I learned in this process was I needed to go back to right here. I needed to stay here as long as I needed to stay here. I didn't need to share if I didn't feel safe, but I needed to stay here because one of the things that I can say I'm so grateful today is that I am 100% connected to who I am, and to what I consider to be my source. I did not allow that trust to be broken. And that became the foundation for me being able to find a little boy. Okay, I'm going there. I'm going to work with that. I'm going to focus on that. And then my time as a professional listener really did me well because I had learned how to listen. And I could tune everything out that wasn't right here.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things for me was learning how to trust myself, and learning not to doubt my inner voice, my intuition, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Because as little kids, when we're in that trauma, we're taught that's not the right thing to listen to. And it's not safe and blah, 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 blah. But learning how to come back to that and trust what your body is telling you is true, that is huge.
That's the key. That's why I really, when silence is not golden, we're primarily looking at communications outside of ourselves with other people with whom we might be seeking some support and some real caring, which we may not have available. But you can also sing inside. And you can talk to yourself inside. And in my coaching and my healing work, I am a 100%, you gotta keep a journal.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So that's key. Because that's when you can break the silence within your own pain. And what your feelings are. Every word, every name, every wash your mouth out with soap expression that's in your journal. Nobody's going to see it but you. And it does liberate your neurocircuitry.
Yeah.
And you may spend, depending on the nature of your trauma, this may take you a couple of years. And meantime, you're being a mama.
Yeah, but you've also got that safe place of your journal to get the feelings out, because the last thing you want to do is keep the feelings in, because they're going to come out one way or another. If it's the way you choose or the way your body just manifests it in disease or dysfunction, it's going to come out.
Or both. Now, I will share another story with you because I think we have time. And those who watch my segment of your talk, or my talk, your wonderful summit will understand. What happened was I was manipulated and emotionally coerced into having an abortion that I didn't want to have after my partner and I had discussed for weeks that we were going to have a third child. And the nature of the manipulation was that he threatened to take our youngest child, who was not yet 3, and take him, and I would never see him again. Now, what do you do with that? Right? This is someone where I was just like, ooh, it's the Twilight Zone. And so I kept myself safe. I kept the children safe. I didn't rock the boat because what I instinctively felt was if he was already that unstable, I did not want to push him to the tipping point until I was ready to be in a place of power and good self-care for me and the kids. And so I had to suck up a lot. You know? Took him 4 years to get out of medical school. Meantime, I'm being the faithful wife, best mom I can be, working my beep off, doing my professional job, paying all the bills, running a show, kids, sports, friends, doing all that. And then we went home the first year after we moved out of state, which I didn't want to do, but he wanted to get us away from whoever could possibly be a support. We went back to visit my family for a holiday, and we were watching. I missed the film Sophie's Choice when it was out in the theaters, and I love Meryl Streep. I thought, this is something I really want to see. And we rented the video, and we're all sitting together in my mother's living room, and it's my family home, watching this movie. And if you haven't seen this movie, if you've been through any kind of trauma, I do suggest it because it can help you reframe a point of emotional release, but you may want to do that by yourself or with someone you really trust. And there's one scene in this film where, I'm going to give it away, spoiler alert, Sophie arrives at a concentration camp with her 2 children. And the man, unfortunately, the government looked very much like my partner, just goaded her. It's like, oh, didn't Jesus say, bring the little children unto me? Which one of your children? And she's faced in that moment, and she knew what would happen. And she had her younger daughter on the one hand and her firstborn young by her side. And in that moment, she had to choose. I lost it. Yeah. I started screaming and howling and weeping uncontrollably. Boom, like that. I just lost it. And I ran upstairs to one of the bedrooms, and it was impossible. It just all came out. And I wanted to I already know what my kids thought about what was going on there. And so it was interesting because and I think that my partner kind of sort of got how much he had hurt me. Kind of, sort of, maybe, not fully. And my mother stood in the doorway and never made a move to comfort me or ask me what was the matter. Because she had been part of the betrayal. So you've got to get it out. Yeah. And you've got to get it out in a way that you can speak about whatever it is, if you need to, as I recommend you do, to your children. You don't have to give them the details, but you have to validate the feeling. And things happen, and we can be very sad. This is part of life. I love you. You're okay. I'm going to be okay. But it needs to be acknowledged. Mm-hmm. Do you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah, my kids will often ask what my childhood was like, and I tell them, you know, guys, you guys are living a very different kind of childhood than Mommy did when she was little. Different eras, but they are growing up in a healthy household, and I did not. So I try to explain to them that, there were people that hurt Mommy, and so Mommy didn't get to do a lot of things like you do.
Mm-hmm.
Because my kids are still really young, but they're curious.
Yeah.
So answering their questions in an age-appropriate manner, because someday they're going to be adults, and they're going to come across my work, and then they'll get it.
Yeah.
But until that day, we'll just
take a long time.
Yeah, and it might not be too.
Yeah. That holds the connection.
Mm-hmm.
That authenticity, that word. Honesty.
Mm-hmm.
Really being body-based in your feeling. That's such a powerful connection, and children feel this.
Mm-hmm.
So much more than adults who've been educated and seasoned right out of their authenticity. Mm-hmm. Children know. They can feel the energy of an authentic expression when you're telling them the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And they deserve that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And what I chose to do was not to turn either of my children against my partner.
Mm-hmm.
Which took, I had that kind of character or patience until I decided to do it. And I thought, when they're grown men, and we need to expose this, because I'm not going to keep my mouth shut about it my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
They will have a foundation, and they will listen, and we will talk it through, and they will choose whatever they choose. But I wasn't going to choose that for them.
Well, yeah. I mean, eventually, the person will expose themselves as well, and then our kids can make their own choices. But my stance on this is, I will do what I need to do while you are little to protect you. And if that means loving a person from a distance, that is what we will do.
Right.
And when you are older, if you want to visit a relationship with that person, you will find out for yourself why
Mm-hmm.
Mommy protected you.
Yeah. And I think that's, for me, that's the genius of being as good a mother as you can be in any moment.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's really, really hard. And being able to touch back here,
Mm-hmm.
and recognize the relationship with the children and go, yep, if I'm going to cry through making dinner, that's what I'm going to do, and we can have a conversation about that. And all I can do is say I'm really sad and I'm using onions, but they need to be fed. I need to find the place in me that can find the balance between meeting my own needs and really doing my best and knowing I'm not going to do it perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
Meet their needs and just get up and do it day after day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. How can our listeners connect with you further if they choose, if they're got their ears perked?
Oh, sure. You can find me on Facebook, Anaiis Salles, and I'm also on LinkedIn, and I am absolutely blessed to work with so many clients, and I do work with women and men who need a safe space and a wise space, a space where you make your own discovery, and I'll just light up and nod my head when you do it and let you own it. Yeah, so you can find me, and I do have a book. This is helpful for some people. I don't know if it's going to be upright with the video, but it is The Living Spiral of Transformation. And it's discovering the power in your diverse, unique DNA, because I kept going here. And in my book, I do give a fairly good account of what happened, but also some techniques and some tips and some ways to use journaling, to use creativity, to just keep it moving. Keep it moving doing this and not allow yourself to become toxified or ossified or disconnected by giving your essence. I don't even think it's power. I think it's your essence. Your essence of who you are is so sacred. And even in the most difficult of circumstances, when you want to get quiet and go in here and breathe, your body will be your best friend. Mm-hmm. It will. The body and your heart.